Hello everyone, welcome to ANZ D365 FinOps team channel. Today we will be talking about asset leasing, which is recently got released on 1st of December 2020. My name is Zishan Sheikh. I have 10 years of work experience in Dynamics world. I'm working as a lead consultant finance based in Christchurch, New Zealand. You can reach me after this session if you have any query over to my personal email ID, or you can contact me to my LinkedIn profile as well. Today we will be talking about the functionality of asset leasing and how can we actually perform the whole process for asset leasing, and we can discard our spreadsheet which we were manually maintaining it separately from D365. Our agenda is we will be talking about asset leasing framework, the business process which I have kept it for our session, and the automation processes where we will be talking about the automation of the initial recognition, depreciation, and interest expenses. Um, we will be talking about the lease import framework, and obviously we will go for the demonstration in the system. So for the framework, I have kept four components for us to understand of asset leasing framework. This asset leasing is complies with accounting standard IFRS 16, which is applicable for Australia and New Zealand, whereas for US it's ASC 842, which is compliance with accounting standards. It does have a dual currency IAS 21, where you can be able to define your own different currency whenever you are making any transaction with a specified exchange rate based on the agreed terms on the asset leasing agreement. Also, we do have an adjustments and index revaluation. Most of you guys might have worked on the asset leasing. So what happens is the interest rates or discount rates keeps changing per annum or maybe quarterly. So you can be able to make those changes into the system for your existing asset leasing. The automation is very much important, and which makes life a bit simpler, and we do not have to maintain all those spreadsheets separately. System is basically doing all the calculation on our behalf after we define the actual agreement details into the system. Then system will calculate all the payment schedules based on the periods. System will also calculate the depreciation based on the straight line. And also system will do the net book value based on the interest rate which we have defined for that specified asset. It does have an integration with chart of accounts, fixed assets, accounts payable, and DMF, data entry entities, import and export. It does have some control on audits or security, where you can be able to limit the user to perform some of the transactions, and some of the transaction can only be done by the specified users. So the business process for the asset leasing, which I have kept it in our today's session, is we have an asset whose value is 56,905.35, whereas I am making a deposit for 12,000, and the commencement date is July 9th 2019. The interest rate is 7.69, and the period which we have defined is 36, and this is the this is the amount, the installment amount which we are going to make the payment to the company from whom we are taking this Mercedes AMG, and there will be a leftover amount which will be paid on 36th period when the installment, when this agreement is going to finish. So my ROU value would be 49,534.43, whereas the actual value of this particular asset is 56,905.35. So in D365, based on this asset leasing module, what system does is we just need to feed the agreement information which we have done with the leaser. So we will just define how much amount, what will be the discounted rate, which is 7.69. What's the value, fair value of that asset, and how much payments we are going to make to the leaser. So based on that, system will do the classification test where it will automatically generate all these payments period, which I usually used to maintain on a spreadsheet. So this will be maintained by the system automatically. So as you can see in this particular option, this is my payment, and my first payment was 12,000 deposit, and then every single period I was making a payment for $967 till 36, but there's a balloon payment which is 17,500. So 17,500 plus 967 makes 18,467, and that's the final payment which we are going to do. And the total amount of that all these payments is make 56,905. So if I move to another spreadsheet calculation which I used to maintain it on the spreadsheet, is right of use asset. So if you remember from my previous slide, I have mentioned that the value of the asset is 49,534, whereas the value of the asset is 59,905, whereas the right of use asset is 49,534.56. So based on that, I have taken the period of for the depreciation. The method is being used as a straight line, but the period which I have used, instead of 36, I have chosen 37. I'm just including the zero period as well so that I can see the actual depreciation amount on it. Yep. And this particular calculation which I was maintaining it is how much payment I'm making it every single period. Yep. And system and we are going to make a calculation interest expense based on 7.69, and this is the closing value based on this specified date. So system is going to maintain all these things by itself. We just need to feed the value of the asset, and system will calculate all the information for us, and we just need to initialize and process these transactions. So it's just a matter of fact of 5 to 6 clicks. Lease import framework. Sorry. So lease import framework, as you know that we do have data management workspace where we import or export some entities for our migration purpose, where in lease asset module we have some lease import framework where we have an option to have the staging table and the destination table on that module. Once you are going to import the files from data management, it can directly go to the destination table, or you can redirect it to the staging table and then process that into the destination table through asset leasing module. So there are some setups on the asset import setup, where we have three different options: lease details, payment schedule contract, executor cost contract. So let's say if we have lease details and we have already imported some of the bit, and we would like to put it on the staging table, and we would like to view some of the details before we import it to the destination table. We do have a setup in order to move these fields which we actually required in order to see those fields into the system before we import it. So there will be less chances of having some errors into the system. Okay, before we proceed further with asset leasing module, you have to go into the feature management workspace in order to activate the asset leasing module. So if I search asset leasing under new tab, you will be able to see it on your feature name, and you just need to activate it. Since I have already activated it, it shows me disable option. So once you activate it, enable it, you will be able to find the asset leasing under your module list. So that is a new feature which got released, and it will be activated once you go into the feature management and activate it. Okay, so today what we will be talking about is we have taken a lease agreement from a company where we have taken a car, and the car will be leased for 36 period of months, and the value of that car is 56,905.48 cents, and the right of use asset would be 49,535. So based on that, I have an agreement which we discussed on the slide. I'll just quickly drag that information so that we can be able to see it on the screen as well. So we are intending to define the agreement, whatsoever agreement we have. So the value of the lease liability would be 56,905.48 cents. The right of use would be 49,535, and the monthly installment will be 967, and the first deposit or cash deposit will be 12,000, which is separate than this monthly payment, and the last payment would be the remaining or balance payment would be 17,500. So let's see how all these calculation can be done by the system rather than maintaining this separate spreadsheet. So what I'll do is I'll go back to the asset leasing. I'll click on the lease summary. I'll click new. I'll put the name of the lease agreement, and the fair value of the asset would be 56,905.48, and here I'm going to put discount rate would be 7.69%, and the compound interval would be monthly. In this case, you can be able to define quarterly or yearly or semi-annually. The concept of this particular one is you can be able to make the payment to the leaser company by saying that instead of making a installment monthly, I would like to make the payment annually or quarterly. So based on that, you will be able to manage your compounding intervals. So asset useful life, according to me, it should be 36 month of period. But since I'm making a cash deposit as 12,000, and then the remaining monthly installment would start from period 1 till 36. So I'm gonna put 37 months here. So my first month would be period 0, which is 12,000. My first period would be 967 till 36 period, and the balloon payment, the remaining amount. So after defining that, I'll go and put the lease group as vehicle. We'll talk about this lease group later on. After doing so, I'll just start the commence date as 090719, and there is some GST amount in it. So what I'll do is I'll just put some GST amount here on the lease incentive. It has a catch in the system. We don't have any mechanism where we can be able to uh, you know put this particular amount directly to the GST account. uh, so I have used a bridging account, so I'll show it to you later on. So that's the downside of the whole process, that the GST mechanism is not being taken care of for the lease process. So after defining this fair value, the month and the percentage and the commencement date, I'll go and make the payment schedule. So my first payment will be day 1, and that is 12,000. My second payment would be monthly, and that will goes to 35 period, and here I'm gonna put as 967 as an installment. My third payment would be as a lump sum of 17,500 plus 967, that makes 18,467. So if I bring my spreadsheet, so this will give you an idea that what I'm just trying to make it here, as in I have defined this period, and here as you can see that this particular amount, the monthly amount and the balloon payment amount, the last amount, is being summed up, and this is what I'm just trying to achieve here. So after defining this, what I'll do is I'll click on the create schedule. So in the background, what system is doing is system is generating my whole calculation, the whole spreadsheet, the one which I have made it up outside of the system. So system is basically generating this particular portion for my payment, right of use transactions, my lease liability. So everything is being calculated in the system. So let's see that. If I go into the books, so here the fair value was 56,905. Based on this particular interest rate or discount rates, system have calculated 49,533, and the amount is the lease liability is 56,904.80. So if I take you to my calculation here, system have made the right amount which I was expecting it, based on whatsoever calculation has been defined in the background. So after defining that, what I'll do is the next step would be I'll go into the payment schedule and validate all these transactions based on the periods. If I'm happy with that, I'll just click on confirm schedule. After clicking on the confirm schedule, you will be able to see the initial recognition option is activated. So once I click on the initial recognition button, system will generate a journal for me, and that particular journal will be debiting my ROU account and credit my lease liability, and the remaining part should be going into GST, but system is not taking care of GST amount for now. So what I'll do is I'll just click on the initial recognition here. After clicking on the initial recognition, system have basically generated a journal for me. Here, if I see that my debited account or GL code is right to use asset is 49533.80, which I was expecting, whereas my lease liability is 56,904.80. This particular amount should be a GST amount for me, but we don't have any option where we can be able to accommodate GST for that particular journal. So for now, I've just parked it to the bridging account. So if I go into the journal details, I try to make any changes on this particular journal, but you just cannot make any changes in that particular journal. So this particular transaction is fixed. You cannot make any modification uh, in this particular journal. So that's the that's the catch which I have found out when I was working on this asset leasing process. So I'll go ahead and post this particular journal. Once I do so, I'll release my first deposit, and I'll go into the payment schedule and click on the create journal. Once I do so, system has automatically created a journal. Again, you can directly go into the journal by clicking on it, and you can post it from there, or if you would like to see it from your asset leasing books, you'll again go into the asset leasing journals here. And here, as you can see, that the journal is created, but it's not yet been posted. So for this particular one, what happens is my asset liability got debited here, and I have used my bridging account for now as a credit here. Okay, I'll go ahead and post this particular journal, the one which has been made for the payment. So once you do so, the next step would be lease liability amortization schedule, where it will show you all the calculation of your interest payments and give you the ending balance of it. So let's say I'll just click on the create journal, and again all the journals will be appearing it in the asset leasing journal. I'll go ahead and click on the asset leasing journal, and here I can see the transaction for the interest expense debited, and the lease obligation, which is the liability, got credit here. So if I'm happy with the transactions, I'll go ahead and click on post button. So once you defined that lease liability, you can be able to post your asset depreciation. Now within this lease asset leasing solution, the calculation is being made based on a straight line method. So as you remember that when I created the lease summary, I defined 37 period including period 0. So based on that, system have made the calculation based on 37 period from my calculated amount, and this is what I was expecting it from the system. If I bring my Excel spreadsheet, the one which I manually maintained it, I can correlate my balance here. Um, so that's called 1338.77. So which is matching with my depreciation. If I'm happy with the transaction and the posted date, I'll click on the create journal, and again I'll go back to my asset leasing journal and post this particular journal. So all those transactions are being posted for that particular period. Now if we are standing on the next period, then again the process would be the same. uh, One more thing I would like to highlight it here is Microsoft have came up with the automation process, the one which we discussed on the presentations. So for that particular presentation, what I've mentioned is we do have an automation in order to perform all these transaction by itself. We do not have to go into the asset leasing journal and start clicking on the create journal. What you just need to do is you'll go into the periodic, and there is a batch journal creation. If I click on it, there are the options here. Either you would like to generate initial recognition transactions, or the payment schedule, or whatsoever you would like to do. So if I'm going to choose the initial recognition and I would like to define it for a specified group, and the ID, which specified ID you would like to define it, or you just keep it blank, so system will automatically create or generate the journals. And if you would like to directly post it, whatsoever journal is been created it, you just go and click on the post button, yes, and then run this particular job. It will automatically process your schedules. There are a couple of reports in asset leasing module. If I go into the inquiry reports, there are some lease movement. What are the transaction were happened? If there's any modification done with the existing lease, have we changed any commencement date? And these kind of things are being defined in the report. That's come out of the box. Now. One more thing I would like to highlight it here, based on New Zealand and Australia, what I have seen is some of the companies keep changing the rates and the discount rate or interest rate. So in this particular example, we have 7.69, but maybe after completing of 1 year, it may change to 8 percentage, or maybe lower percentage. So in order to make any changes in such kind of existing lease agreement, what you can do is you click on the adjust lease. Once you click on it, you make the changes, let's say 8 percentage, and how many periods were remaining. I'll say 36 periods were remaining, and I'll say this particular payment is done, so I don't want to make this payment to be available for my new book, and I'll say create a schedule. So what happens is system have created a separate book for me against that particular lease, and this is activated for us whatever changes we have made in the system. So if I go back to the books here, in the background, system have made the calculation according to whatever changes I have made here, and as you can see that now the right of use asset is different than what we were expecting, and the lease liability is different. And basically all the calculation are being amended based on the percentage and the period whatsoever we have been defining it here. And if I go into the payment schedule, you can be able to see all those transactions for the new modification or new changes. In order to review all the transaction which we actually did previously, what you can do is you click on the lease version history, and here if I double click on the show list, now this says this is active and this one is not active. So for that, what was the previously defined for that particular agreement, and what is newly defined in this for this particular year, whatsoever date we have been defining it. So you can be able to make those changes through that. Yep. So I will be having another scenario in my upcoming video where we will be involving fixed asset in the asset leasing process, because it has a different process than the process which we have discussed right now. You let me know if you have any query. We are happy to answer to your queries. Thank you very